So, hello everyone. My name is Amélie. I'm here to welcome you to our webinar. It's great to have you all here for this session on NIS2 and IEC 62443. Thank you for joining us. Today, as I said, we will be tackling a highly relevant topic in the industrial world, which is the new EU NIS2 directive and best practices for managing remote access to industrial machines in line with the IEC 62443 standard. This session will last about 40 minutes and there will be a Q&A at the end. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Also, we are pleased to announce the release of our new cybersecurity guide today. It's named How to Secure Your Industrial Remote Access According to NIS2 and IEC 62443. It will be available for free download at the end of this session on our website. So more details on that at the end of the webinar. And joining us today are two experts, Javier and Thomas, who will present themselves. Over to you guys.
So, yes, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Javier Cardeña. I'm a market manager at HNS Networks, and I've been working with industrial automation and cybersecurity, industrial cybersecurity for many years now. And together with me is our cybersecurity expert at HNS, Thomas. Hello, Thomas.
Hello, my name is Thomas Wassen. I'm from Sweden. I'm the product manager for network security solutions at HMS Networks. I have a background in telecom and I've focused on operational critical systems security for about 10 years now or so.
Okay, Thomas, what can you tell us? Let's start.
Yes, so today's webinar, it's not just a sales pitch. It is important to remember that security products or features do not guarantee a secure and compliant setup. Good OT security has, of course, not just one simple product solution. It requires many things. It requires people, processes, products, and good partnerships. And it requires discipline and hard work, taking care of small details. You need to invest in all of these areas in order to get a better posture. It's also different in every environment. For each installation, the administrator must pay close attention to the configuration, the context, and the environment of where remote access is installed. But there is a lot of help out there to get, if it was only easy to find it and apply it. Let's have, before we start, a quick check with the audience, a little poll. Have you or your direct customers experienced a cybersecurity breach that has resulted into OT downtime, operational technology downtime, in, let's say, the last 3 years? So answer it in the poll. We can't see the chat and you won't be included in the stats. And I see a firm 30% so far about has had at least one or multiple outages. That's pretty significant. But luckily the majority has not been hit yet. Probably will come. All right, let's move on. So asset owners, they are in a very, very challenging position. They are both responsible for preventing cyber attacks and they are also directly impacted by their consequences. With new regulations like NIS2 emerging, they are also under increasing pressure. And actually not only from regulators, but also from the cyber insurance companies who ask whether they comply in their operations to certified ways of working, from standards like ISO 27000 or for operational technology specifically IEC 62443. And they want to know what their overall cybersecurity posture looks like. As a result, asset owners are placing higher expectations on their suppliers, both the machine builders and system integrators. to deliver really a secure by design solution. And the most effective way to demonstrate this security is through the adherence of established standards. And that is exactly what we will break out today. So hopefully we can simplify this. Xavier.
Yes, and here it comes, the NIS2 directive issued by the European Union and which came into effect in October of last year. Anyway, to ensure its enforcement, each of the EU member states is required to transpose it into national laws, which is something that is almost completed, I would say. Majority of the countries, they already have transposed. This directive applies to both public and private organizations, and compliance is mandatory for any company operating cybersecurity relevant activities within the EU. So not just the EU-based entities. Even countries like, for instance, the UK, that is outside the EU, are updating their own cybersecurity frameworks to align with the core principles of NIS2. Unlike its predecessor, NIS2 significantly expands its scope. Now it's covering 18 sectors, not just those that typically are considered as critical. And among these 18 sectors, we will find water and wastewater management, chemical manufacturing, food production and distribution, machinery, vehicle manufacturing, and many, many more. So we have 18, practically covers all the industry. Any company operating in one of these 18 sectors with an annual turnover exceeding 10 million euros would fall under the directive and is categorized as either an essential or an important entity. There are differences between one and the other, but we will not go into this today. NIS2 also introduces a stronger focus on supply chain risk, and that's important for many of you. This means not only the main organization, but also suppliers, including product manufacturers, product vendors, and system integrators must be assessed. Companies are required to evaluate the cybersecurity risk profile of all relevant suppliers involved in critical ICT and OT services, systems, and products. So NIS2 is for all that is transforming how cybersecurity is viewed at the organizational level. Penalties for non-compliance can be significant, and executive leadership, including C-level management, is held directly accountable. So the directive also outlines a set of technical and organizational measures that entities must implement, and these are described in an article, Article 21st of the directive, which forms the foundation of our compliance guide that's focused specifically and basically on remote access to industrial systems. So we have identified 17 technical measures based on Article 21st that are in the scope of remote access and that organizations must implement. There are 4 technical areas, segments, especially relevant for remote access. One is the access control, incident handling, network security, and also policies and procedures, very important. Also, Thomas mentioned it before. However, it's important to know that NIS2 tells us what needs to be done, but not how to do it. That's where internationally recognized standards like, for instance, IEC 62443 and NIST come into play. Thomas, what about if we do an introduction of what is IEC 62443?
Yes, I would love to. Like you say, NIS2 tells us what needs to be done, but not how to do this. So IEC 62443 is an international cybersecurity standard for industrial automation specifically. It's very, very structured. It's layered. It's widely accepted by OEMs and asset owners. IEC 62443 is actually a series of international standards, and it provides a framework for securing industrial automation and control systems, AJAX often called, throughout their life cycle, focusing on the risk-based cybersecurity measures and both technology as well as organizational processes. There are general documents that define the scope, models, as well as conformance matrices. And there are also those documents that specify policies and procedures with organizational requirements. And there are system-level security requirements for machines, and finally also component requirements, where the description goes down to product-level security needs. That's really targeted towards the vendors. So in terms of remote access, we have identified that the 62443 1 around policies and procedures is relevant to reference. The 6443.2.4 with focus on what service providers need to deliver is relevant, and 6443.3.3 defining the system level technical requirements and mapping them towards 4 different security levels. The 4 different security levels, they are for a security level 1, it really gives you the guidelines on how do I protect against basic protection against unintentional threats. Security level 2, a little bit better, serves for defense against deliberate attacks. Security level 3 is designed to resist attackers with system-specific knowledge. And finally, security level 4 protects against advanced, well-resourced attacks, for example, from nation-state actors. It depends, of course, on your organization and the nature of your business, what you should choose. Generally, SL1 would be a great upgrade for many, while SL2 should probably be a minimum target level for most operations. So what we have done is to map the NIS2 measures that Xavier already talked about towards different specific guidelines from the IEC 62443 standard documents. We mapped it towards the NIST framework as well, but they're not in the slide here. You can find them in the downloadable guide. This really enables us to concretely see what needs to be done in the remote access solution to make it secure and NIS2 compliant. Like I said, it's not only about the product, it's also how you configure it, how you use it, and how you implement it. This will give you the guidelines for that. Before we continue, let's have a quick check with the audience again, a little poll. So what about you in your organization? Do you use a framework to guide you in your cybersecurity implementation in OT to meet the NIS2 requirements? Perhaps you already used the 62443 framework. Perhaps you have adopted the NIST framework. Or perhaps you are picking the best of all worlds and building your own program. Or maybe you honestly haven't started yet and are educating yourself about what to do. Please cast your vote. It will be interesting to see. 51% has not started the implementation yet. 55%. So we see that even though NIS2 was adopted already October last year, we still see that many people need to get started and are hungry to understand what exactly needs to be done. So we hope that this guide will give you, at least for the secure remote access part, concrete information about what features to enable and how to implement different tools and products in order to make it secure. I'm very happy to see that 25% uses 62443 as their guideline. That's awesome. Good.
Excellent. So even today, what we have set up to now is valid for remote access solutions in general. We're going to explain basically how to configure the Ewon remote access solution in order to meet the key requirements we've just discussed. For those who might not be familiar, Ewon offers a robust and user-friendly cloud-based VPN solution designed specifically for remote access to industrial assets. It's named Talk2M. It's widely adopted by machine builders, system integrators, asset owners. There are more than 600,000 machines already connected to the system, and the solution is ISO 27001 certified, so it provides a solid foundation for aligning with NIS2 requirements. But again, there are things to be done. So we have not only mapped the NIS2 requirements with IEC 62443, but also we will provide some information about how to configure the systems. Starting with the access control. Of course, we have 17 control. We will not go through all of them today because otherwise it would be very long, but for the most relevant. Starting with this access control, we have this strong authentication. Strong authentication is absolutely necessary to safeguard privacy. This includes enforcing complexity requirements to create stronger passwords and limiting the reuse of passwords to avoid vulnerabilities and defining, for instance, expiration periods to ensure that passwords are regularly updated. Now, IEC 62443-2-4, which are the requirements by the service providers, says that the minimum would be that at least 8 characters would be the minimum length of a password, and a combination of at least 3 of the following 4 character sets: lowercase, uppercase, numeric, digital, and special characters must be set. This is configurable in the Ewon solution through the Talk2M cloud configurator called eCatcher. So that's easy to do. Again, with the guide, there are more details on how to do it. Okay. Another very important measure is to apply always multi-factor authentication. With that, organizations can enhance their security posture as it introduces an additional layer of authentication beyond just the passwords. This means that even if the password is compromised, unauthorized individuals will still not be able to access information or systems without the necessary secondary verification. This is a hard requirement, not only by NIS2, or not only to be NIS2 compliant, but it's also included in any cybersecurity standard as a basic characteristics and mandatory everywhere. So you must be sure to activate it in Talk2M. It's very easily done, but you have to set it up. Each account must add their mobile phone numbers to receive the one-time text code upon login. Another important topic regarding access control is to configure the system with the least privilege as a guiding principle. This is, in fact, the guiding principle of zero trust that ensures that users, applications, and systems are granted only the minimal access or permissions necessary to perform the tasks they were assigned for. By limiting these access rights, this principle helps preventing both accidental and intentional misuse of privilege, thereby significantly reducing the risk of security breaches. And additionally, it serves as a barrier against the spread of malware, because as unauthorized access is limited, it minimizes the potential impact of any security vulnerabilities. Now, access rights are configurable also in Talk2M with pools and groups. So most users should be defined as standard users with limited permissions, with less privileged permissions. You can use the user group feature in Talk2M to define user profiles to which specific permissions, access rights, and or management roles are attributed. For example, it's possible to restrict the access rights of a group of users to only a specific device in the field, or to even specific devices that go beyond the Ewon, so everything that's connected in the LAN. Administrators have the responsibility of managing these rights and permissions of the other users, and so this duty should be limited to highly trusted personnel within the organization. So these roles can be attributed only to some users with the authority to manage specific groups or users of pools and devices. So that's a key topic. Another measure specified in NIS2 is this one. It's a key function that plays a vital role in maintaining security, because it guarantees that a remote connection can only be established with explicit authorization of the asset owner and may be limited to a predetermined duration. This ensures that access is granted only under specific conditions, such as, for instance, when the machine is idle or functioning in a secure operating mode. By requiring a prior authorization, the system is better equipped to identify any and flag any unauthorized connections, which could indicate, of course, a potential attack. Now, this is done in the Ewon device so that the asset owner would retain the full control over the remote access. So Ewon gateways provide a feature that requires the owner's approval for its connection, a physical approval. With this functionality, the asset owners activate the permission. So the Ewon gateways can be configured to enable or restrict the remote access based on the state of a digital input, is a physical digital input to grant authorization. Otherwise, a remote connection cannot be established. Common methods for activating this input would be physical, so with a switch. Also could be with an operator or automatic action from the SCADA or HMI that would activate the physical digital input. Another option would be activated from an automatic output from the PLC, for instance, time or condition-based. And finally, it could be also activated logically with a script inside the Ewon without the need to use the digital, physical digital input. It can be also used by a script. Now, here are some measures to consider in relation to access control. There's a lot about incident handling and reporting obligations and notifications in NIS2. But for remote access, we will focus on monitor and log the connections. So this is available in Talk2M by default, so nothing to configure here. And the information you will get includes information such as when and who connected to what machine during how long, and what was the reason of the connection. Even the operator who made the connection can include some comments on the access. This report, of course, can be exported so that you can integrate in your systems. So you see here some example of how a report would look like. Now I want to jump to the part of the network security and segmentation. Thomas, up to you.
Yes, thank you very much. From a network security perspective, the NIS2 requires several specific measures. For instance, network segmentation, of course, also security patch management, and it requires you to deactivate unneeded connections and services, protect against unauthorized software reaching your OT assets, and in general also allow access to the network only to and from authorized devices. A handful. Access to OT zones from remote, and really from IT as well, was often designed as a one big highway into the entire zone. This requires a high risk profile, or this provides a high risk profile towards the entire production line. And according to NIS2, these risks should be reduced by means of implementing network segmentation. As a general principle, in IEC 62443, the asset owner is advised to do a risk-based analysis of their OT environment. While determining the risk and the potential impact to their business or their service operation, the asset owner must divide their operation in several separate parts, like machines doing specific things or production lines that can be isolated from each other. The zones are to be given a target security level from 1 to 4, depending on how critical they are. An example can be a main machine in a yogurt factory, for instance. Blending strawberries with yogurt will probably have a higher target security level than the packaging machine, because downtime on the blending machine will have more impact with cleaning time and wasting resources, etc. So between zones, IEC 62443 prescribes conduits, literally a controlled pathway for data between zones. It is here that enforcements can be made to restrict and allow specific zones to talk to each other. This approach takes control, provides visibility, and reduces risk for lateral movement of undesired traffic flows. More specifically, NIS2 requires the relevant entities shall segment systems into networks or zones in accordance with the results of their risk assessment. They shall segment the systems and networks from third parties' systems and networks as well, specifically stated. And IEC prescribes for this to be used logical or physical network segmentation, depending on if you want to comply to SL1 or SL2 for physical network segmentation. And when doing network segmentation, it says that the control system shall provide the capability to physically segment control systems from non-control systems and critical control systems from non-critical control systems. So we need to start with identifying what is what inside the system. And this can differ significantly depending on what kind of machine you have. In a few minutes, I will illustrate this with different recommended setups depending on the scenario and maybe the size of the machine. As examples, we have identified 5 different scenarios. One for a simple standalone machine, and one for a machine that's connected to a customer network but still functions autonomously. One with a machine that actually interacts with the customer's OT systems, like a SCADA system. And one with a machine with several different zones within, and also a larger machine that could almost be like a small factory. But before we go into the different scenarios, we first need to talk about what to do in the conduits as well. NIS2 requires you to restrict access and communication between zones to those necessary for operations with the relevant entities or for safety. Specifically, you must allow access to the network only to authorized devices. In IEC, the requirement 5.2, elevation 1 for SL2 compliance, requires a deny by default, allow by exception approach. The control system shall provide capability to deny the traffic and only allow what's specifically exempted. To achieve this deny by default policy, you will need firewalls with rules configured on from IP, destination IP, and port. Sometimes this can be complemented with even stronger security measures by filtering on MAC addresses or using deep packet inspection technology to also differentiate on different operations within the industrial protocols. For instance, allow read but do not allow write in Modbus, or start and stop allowed but not reprogram in Ethernet IP. Now let's dive into these 5 different scenarios. In the first scenario, the machine is completely standalone in the customer's premises. Standalone machines such as water pumps or quality measurement devices often operate in isolated environments without connections to other systems. So the machine builder typically requires remote access to log in for maintenance or troubleshooting when there's an alert or an issue. But the machine is connected to the operational process, of course, but not with industrial networking connectivity. It's not even connected towards their IT systems. In this example, the E1 gateway is standalone, providing remote access via Talk2M through a cellular connection. A threat analysis indicates that potential risk if unauthorized parties compromise the remote access or device, potentially allowing malicious traffic to reach the machine. Similarly, if a physical breach occurs on site, unauthorized traffic might travel from the machine to the VPN client once the connection is established. Therefore, in this setup, we see 2 distinct zones. One control zone, that's on-prem, and one untrusted remote networking zone. And in between, a conduit is required to control the traffic flow. The conduit is installed through a virtual firewall as part of the Talk2M services. This restriction can be configured directly within the eCatcher tool that Xavier showed earlier. Here you configure the strength of this firewall setup. I would recommend Ultra, where you specify specific endpoints and services that are reachable and from what, but the rest will be denied. In the next scenario, the E1 is connected through the customer's network to reach the Talk2M service. So no cellular connectivity here. It's sort of an integrated part, but it's a common setup. The E1 gateway is used as a perimeter between the machine and the customer's network. In this scenario, we will have a remote zone, we'll have a control system zone, and we have another untrusted customer network zone. It's untrusted from the machine's perspective. From the customer's perspective, perhaps the control system is the untrusted zone. So it's important here that by default, the E1 gateway will restrict all traffic from the customer to the machine network, from WAN to LAN. The E1 Cozy Plus or the E1 Flexi, you configure the WAN protection level, disregard all traffic except VPN and initiated traffic. Must be set, and this is enabled by default. The traffic from eCatcher to LAN must still be restricted in the same way as scenario 1. So configured in the eCatcher and deployed and enforced in the Talk2M cloud. And of course, the remote traffic is allowed in through the VPN and the firewall policies in the cloud, and are still important to restrict these with the eCatcher client. There will not be traffic allowed from the control system to go to the customer's network either. And while it will be possible to set up NAT 1.1 between WAN and LAN, so you could possibly allow SCADA systems to pull from the PLC, however, in this configuration, the system will open all TCP and all UDP ports on that specific path, going over the one-to-one NAT traversal. and this increases the threat surface significantly. So this is not secure enough according to the deny by default guidelines. So it's recommended to instead use a firewall with rules that restrict the traffic and the type of traffic allowed over the net and apply specific port restrictions, or rather all port restrictions and specific port allowances. We'll discuss this in scenario number 3. So in scenario number 3, we talk about the standalone machine requiring remote access and connectivity to the asset owner's network. For instance, it needs to feed data to a SCADA system, or another operational tool may need to collect data from the machine. This ensures accurate status updates and communicated plant operators, and of course local data extraction may also be necessary for additional purposes. We have the same zones, but now communication between the control zone and the untrusted network from the customer are controlled by a firewall. This dedicated firewall closely manages and controls data flows in both directions. Ideally, traffic should primarily flow outward from the machine to the plant network, but the firewall can also be configured to selectively permit only specific traffic types from authorized sources into the machine. And with a net 1.1 or without, but the important part is that it will be a setup that allows only specific traffic between specific IPs and on a predetermined UDP TCP ports. The VPN traffic will be passing through the EWAN, and from remote you will still need to enable the firewall in the cloud to restrict the data flow between the control system and the untrusted remote network. Furthermore, the firewall also controls the traffic out from the control system to the untrusted customer network, restricting any lateral movement that might come in via the remote networks. The firewall setup will look something like this. 2 zones, typically segmented, compliant with security level 2 requirements, and by default, the traffic is denied in both directions. Specific traffic can be allowed, or with or without network header translation, to enable communication to and from specific devices. And additionally, traffic filters will have to be configured to only allow traffic from specific IP addresses and towards specific IP addresses with specific TCP UDP ports. For scenario 4, we take a look at a larger machine with different control systems and non-control systems and connection to the production plant. For complex machines consisting of various type of nodes, risk analysis often indicates the need for additional segmentation within the machine itself. The machine builder should reference the 64.333 standard to demonstrate the maturity and the security in their system architecture to their customers. A good example of a non-control system in a machine is, for instance, a webcam. Here we also have critical control systems, for instance an HMI that has been singled out as highly vulnerable. To make this machine SL1 compliant, a managed switch is used to separate the HMI as a critical control system from the PLC and the drives as a control system, and the webcam as an example of a non-control system. These must be logically separated to meet 64.3 SL1. And a good example of logical segmentation is using VLANs. The third-party remote access network is also separated through an isolated VLAN from the machine, and towards the customer a physical port is used. So SL2 towards the customer, SL1 within the machine, and SL1 towards the remote network. In this scenario, deploying logical segmentation, a managed switch is required. Managed switches configure specific ports to be part of specific VLANs, enforcing in that way logical segmentation. It's protected by password on the switch, on the Ethernet switch device itself. VLANs isolate ports from each other, but they do not allow any communication between. Therefore, any traffic routed between the VLANs must pass through a firewall where the rules can restrict traffic flow. So therefore, when traffic is flowing from the remote zone to a control system, it will need to go via the firewall, and the network, the machine, and restrictions on the data flow can be applied there. In this scenario, the customer does not have to rely on the cloud firewall configuration. All access policies are made in the firewall on premises. So traffic from for instance, the control system to the non-control system with the cameras can be denied altogether. Then we come to our last scenario, number 5, where we cover a larger machine with different control systems and connectivity to the production plant. Risk analysis has determined that several critical zones, for instance, the safety PLC network, as well as an engineering workstation from where all configurations can be changed. The machine itself can operate with the same logical segmentation, but for remote access and towards the critical zones, SL2 is required, and therefore physical segmentation. These segments can get dedicated firewall ports on the firewall for this physical segmentation. And with this setup, all traffic to and from each of the zones can be controlled and monitored by the firewall. For SL1 zone, the security is reliant on the VLAN configuration on the switch as well, but deny by default rules will be in the firewall. In this scenario, deploying physical segmentation, each of the zones can use any type of switch really. If I would still recommend managed switches for better quality and error insights, but no VLANs are needed in those zones. Any traffic routed between zones must pass through the firewall, where it will be transferred to different physical NICs, and rules are applied on what traffic is forwarded. So traffic from zone 2 to zone 3 can, for instance, allow Modbus, but traffic from zone 2 to 4 can be denied altogether. This brings a 644333 SL2 with deny by default security policy in practice. All right, Xavier, back to you.
Thank you, Thomas. Very good that you explained this very clearly with these 5 scenarios with really secure products. But as mentioned earlier, having a secure product, even with the correct configurations, is not enough to ensure compliance. The true compliance requires a combination of secure technologies, well-defined processes, and robust procedures. If you're a system integrator or a machine builder OEM, it's crucial to provide clear and detailed documentation on how remote access is managed. Make sure user accounts are properly maintained, as user roles and access rights may change frequently or from time to time. And always rely on solutions that are widely accepted within the industry to minimize future compatibility or compliance issues. Pursuing the ISO 27001 certification and following IEC 62443-4 for you is also a smart move because not only does strengthen your security posture, but it also will give you a competitive advantage when working with organizations that are impacted by NIS2. So while adapting to these new requirements represent a significant shift for many companies in the supply chain, the current cybersecurity landscape, in fact, leaves no alternative. This is the path to move forward. There's no other possibility. Now, we want to summarize 3 takeaways, important takeaways. In our opinion, true compliance involves not just secure products, but also robust processes and procedures. Investing in secure products is ineffective without the proper processes and procedures in place. Train your people, establish the adequate procedures, preferably using standards like IEC 27001, NIST, and IEC 62443. Use secure and globally accepted products and trust on experts. Second one, I would say, is use standardized frameworks and guidelines, such as IEC 62443 and NIST that we are covering in the guideline. In fact, some countries have already aligned with some of them, like, for instance, in NIS2, like, for instance, in Italy, they have aligned with the framework of NIST. Segmentation is always key to keep out and reduce impact. That would help you a lot, and you can follow the recommendations that Thomas has given you with the 5 scenarios. And this really leads to what is secure remote access, industrial remote access, but also to be compliant with NIS2 requirements. Now, to finalize, we invite you to share your thoughts, basically in a 1-minute post-webinar survey, and also you can, we will forward you the guide that we have created. That's an extension of what we have shown today. So you have here the QR code, but you should have also in the chat the information on the link to download. And in any case, here you have our email addresses if you want to ask something or to ask for these links. So we want to thank you all for attending these sessions, and we will now proceed answering the questions you launch in the chat. I'm not sure if we can handle all of them now because there are a lot. But so whatever we cannot do it now online, we will answer it offline. So let's see if we can answer. Thomas, are you ready for the questions?
I'm ready for the questions. I can pick a few and then try to answer myself or put them forward to you. One of the earliest questions, is that okay?
Is that okay? It is okay.
Yeah. So one of the earlier questions was that we would like to use a device compliant to IEC 62443. How does it work with device compliancy? Shall I take that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, please.
So like I said, the framework has 4 different slices, and the 4th slice is 62443 4.1 and 4.2. They are really about security certification for vendors like ourselves. First of all, you must certify your development team, so the person that builds the product from scratch. You do this according to the 4.1 process, and you need to thereafter, after you have done the initial certification, you need to certify your. You need to prove that the certification, that the process is actually used for a product built from scratch. And this is where it's a bit difficult, of course, to apply this on older products. You could re-engineer older products completely, but to say that they become 4.2 compliant, by that, it's not really fair. A real product certification needs to be done on new products. And we are on that journey as well. Our Anibus organization is already certified, maturity level 3 even, and we're looking at this for the whole organization. And we will adapt this for other products, for our products as well. But it's going to be a long-term journey, as it is for everybody in the industry. You can see that the number of devices that truly are certified is still very, very low. This is why it's important to apply the requirements on a system level first. So you can't rely on every component in the system to be certified individually. I have a question about eCatcher requiring 2 mobile phone numbers for MFA. That's news to me. Do you know anything about that, Xavier?
Yeah. In fact, you need one, but you have another one for backup, just in case something happens. But in fact, with one is enough. The second one is optional in case that you want to have it as a backup.
Okay, that's good to know. I see that some people would rather use MFA app instead of SMS, but that's not a feature we offer today. But that makes sense to add that in the future. Personally, I hate apps.
That's in our journey as well. That's in our. That's also foreseen. Yeah, you will have it.
Yeah. Hope this session is being recorded. Yes, it's being recorded, and we will publish this online so you can review it later. And we do like to receive your comments and suggestions for improvements on both the guide and the webinar.
Yeah.
Let's see if we see more questions here. If you have a system with, let's say, 3 zones and they are segmented in 3 VLANs, can the E1 route the remote connection to the right VLAN? So the E1 routers, they don't embed VLANs, so they don't control the communication to or from different VLANs. For communication between VLANs, you have to support a router that does VLAN, for instance, the Anibus Defender. What's the added value of the vendor versus a regular layer 3 switch? I think a regular layer 3 switch might have some firewall functionality, but it's not a true stateful firewall. It might have some port filtering capabilities, but it's not a stateful firewall. So I would say a Defender is a more secure solution. It offers you more granular control over the traffic as well. Plus, you can actually dive even deeper by doing deep packet inspection inside the industrial protocols as well. So it depends on the risk profile and your risk appetite, of course. Do you see another question that you?
Who should take? I think it's for you. Who should take action to review the cybersecurity of an already built asset with a remote assistance service installed? The client or the asset supplier? Who's at fault if it isn't reviewed? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the client, the asset owner, has the responsibility towards NIS2 because they are the entity in subject for the regulation. But as the NIS2 requirement prescribes, is that the entity should forward these requirements to their supply chain, which means to secure the machine builders. So I would say that both will be responsible in the end, but the client needs to get their act together and make sure that their machine builders are game for this. I talk to many machine builders that are thinking proactively about this and are redesigning their systems to be compliant with a common framework where 62443 is the absolute most favored one, so that the clients can feel confident that the machine is designed in a secure way.
There is another question that I could take that's a bit in relation with that. It's from an end customer asking who owns the Ewon and who owns the Talk2M management, because they would like to be, or is the machine builder the owner? So in fact, it's according to the agreement you have. Can be one or can be the other. Doesn't necessarily need to be the machine builder. It's more a question of the agreements that you will have with the machine builder, which will increase because of NIS2 and because the influence of the machine builder in the compliance with NIS2. So because it's about the supply chain, so it will come. We see more and more the end users taking the responsibility of the administration of the Talk2M account, which doesn't mean, of course, that they are providing access to the machine builders to access the machines that they are responsible for.
Yes. Here again, a question about the mapping NIS2. We are in the guides considering the 3.3 framework for the system security. And the question is this an advantage if it's mapped to 4.2 or is the same requirements as 3.3? And in fact, most of the requirements in 3.3 and 4.2 are exactly the same. They are more in scope for an individual device. So what we think you can do with being compliant towards 3.3 is that you can mitigate all the nodes within a zone. It will take a long time before all of them are going to be compliant to 4.2. So by taking a 3.3 approach, you can mitigate the deficiencies, you could say, of all the devices in a zone. It's a little bit like a house where you put a lock on your outside door first before you put a lock with individual keys on every door in the inside. But maybe over time we'll get to a place where all devices will have 6244342 by default, and then the machine level sort of certification will become very, very easy.
Okay. For those who refuse to connect via the cloud, could you tell us, Thomas, how to comply with NIS2 with Anybus Defender VPNs and Ewons?
Yeah, there is a possibility. We have launched that as a use case. So the Ewon Flexis, they can function as VPN clients outside of the Talk2M cloud server as well. So and the defender can function as a VPN concentrator. So it's a very beautiful use case, building a private VPN setup, Flexis connecting to the Anybus Defender, and you can set up your own layer 2 OT VPN network in that way. You have to host the different components yourself and manage them yourself, but we provide, of course, guides and support to help you with that.
Yeah. We have another question here. Can we share who has access to VPN automatically with our customers so they know who is active at any moment? I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. Otherwise, you can send us an email or try to help us. But yes, it's possible to. That would be part of these procedures that we were talking about, if I understood correctly, about who can access, who in the machine builder, which is the user that can access specifically the VPN, and this is recorded in the logs, in the outlet logs that is automatically created in Talk2M. If I understood correctly, that could be the case.
And can it be seen in real time as well? I think you can actually connect a light to the input-output device also, that somebody is working with remote access at this time, right?
Exactly. There is also in the Ewons a digital output that indicates when a connection is established. So you know that there is a connection established. Now, to know who is connected, which is the user connected, then I think you should go to the outlet log.
Okay, good. Clive mentions that it insists on a backup number, so I think we'll follow up on that, because
we'll follow up. Yes.
How we expect it to work.
Yeah.
Is the firewall based on open source one or totally new development? Depends which model. The smallest model is a custom development, but the larger defenders with the VLAN support, they are based on BSD and pfSense with specific OT adjustments.
Yeah, more details for the IEC 62443-4-2, that assessment that we did. Yeah, we can share more details, but we are doing it under the NDA agreement. So just ask your channel or your account manager for the Ewon, and they will start the procedure to make you available, to make this document available for you. But that's under NDA agreement.
Yeah. How do you define physical segmentation? Where does it begin and end? That's a good question. But I define it by having separate layer 2 infrastructures, so separate switching infrastructure. You can use dedicated firewalls, but firewalls with physical NIC interfaces that work independently from each other is also considered physical segmentation. I'm sure it can be debated, but I didn't make this up. This is what I feel that the industry has agreed upon.
I agree. There's a question about Active Directory integration of Talk2M, and if it's in the roadmap, and the answer is yes. The answer is it's in the roadmap. It's not possible yet, but it's in the roadmap. It's in the roadmap, yes. Is HNS selling a product that can separate a network into different VLANs that is simple to configure?
Yes, NT5000 Entron switch.
Yeah,
it's has a beautiful web interface that's quite simple to configure. Actually,
it is.
It might suit your needs. Check it out. Yeah.
Yes. Does the Defender contain not only the net routing function but antivirus net attacking threat functionality?
It does not contain antivirus. Antivirus is not so relevant anymore. That was relevant on on HTTP traffic, not HTTPS, right? But it does have advanced threat detection functionality through the framework of a Suricata framework. So you can have it hunt for specific signatures if you configure it in that way. So that's possible.
I have a comment from somebody in the West Coast that we started very early for them. So I'm sorry for that. We try to manage in a time frame that's valid for all over the world, but of course it's impossible. But you can review it. It's recorded, and you can review it. Thank you for your interest on that. So a question about where the complete NIS2 to 62443 NIS mapping can be found. This is in the guide that you can download from our website. In fact, if you fill the questionnaire, the survey, you will receive it immediately because of technical reasons. Otherwise, if you don't fulfill the questionnaire, you will receive anyway the link. But I think it will not be today. But if you fulfill the survey, it will. So just to be sure, this is not a complete NIS2 mapping. It's in relation to remote access only. Yeah? So it's based on remote access. Yes, we will clarify the question of the MFA. Can the system generate an email to alert you of who has logged on? The system can generate an email if there is a connection. I'm not sure if it can generate information of who has logged on. Again, this comes in the audit logs, but we will follow on this to be more sure about that. Thomas, what do you mean with a stateful firewall?
A stateful firewall is a firewall that keeps state of the connection requests in both directions, not just does a port filter. So it will, a TCP connection is bidirectional, so it will send a request in one case, and it will then keep track what does it expect back on the return path, and will only open the ports where it expects traffic back, so it can match one to the other.
Okay. Okay, so really we have much more questions. We are close to the end of the session. We will answer them, so we keep them and we will answer them offline. I'm sorry for that, but we will do. So thank you very much for attending. Thank you for your interest. It's been great. The audience, it's a great number of people and the questions, so we're very happy about that. And we remain available for you for further questions. And again, especially if you download the guide, I think you will probably like it, or hopefully you will. And also, you might have also more questions that we are very happy to answer. So thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.